Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a great week this week. And I wanted to put a quick video here just to discuss the evaluation worksheet that you're going to be working on this week. In addition to the worksheet, you're also going to be taking the quiz and you're going to do a research log. I've also put in the annotated bibliography file into this week's folder. If you just want to look through that, that's something we'll be working on next week. And we've sort of progressed to that. So hopefully it won't be a huge transition as we go towards the annotated bibliography. But next week you'll be doing, or you'll be starting a 10 source annotated bibliography. So I wanted to talk to you about a few things for this week's worksheet, and then how that may translate into next week's annotated bibliography assignment. So to start, I just wanted to go over this evaluation worksheet with you. So I'm just going to kind of put it up on the screen a little bit here and go through it. It's fairly simple, but I wanted to go over the purpose and why you're being asked to do it, and also how it connects to the preliminary research that you did at the beginning of the semester. I believe we did it in week 2. So with the preliminary research worksheet, you were basically doing some random inquiry into things that you might have been interested in with your career, and also the major you may major in here at JCC as well as at a university. And you were just sort of exploring. And then we took it to more of a scholarly development as we talked about the JCC library and the library databases. And we also discussed that other universities, colleges, all the libraries that are attached to an academic institution will have subscriptions to these databases. And so it's very important that you utilize them, because those sources are really considered scholarly, and it's something that's peer reviewed. It's something that's been published in an academic environment, and it's reliable. It's something that has value in the academic community. Google is wonderful. It's something we all use to get quick information and quick answers, but because it's sort of a commercial everyman site or every woman site, it's not easy to understand if everything on there is reliable or not, because anyone can post on there. So that's why we don't use Wikipedia, because it's something that everyone can contribute to without having to be reviewed in any way or without having certain standards. So anyway, as we've progressed, at this point you should be using the JCC library databases. And last week there was a video on it, and we've kind of discussed that all along the way. I wanted to say that there are some exceptions to that. There's sort of like a gray area for me as your instructor. I would say with every instructor you have, go with what their balance is for what would be considered acceptable research. For this class, I have said that you could get a TED Talk, and a lot of times those speakers are vetted. They have to go through a process of showing their value in the community for which they're speaking. And also I just think it's kind of something that's not been measured all the time as valuable for academic work. But I myself appreciate the TED Talks just because I think it is an expert speaking on something that they have experienced, something they've researched, and something that they have knowledge for to share. So also you did the interview. Now, with your 10 source annotated bibliography next week, I do allow you to use one TED Talk, and I do allow you to do 2 interviews. So you've already completed one interview. If there was someone who called you back maybe a little late last week when you were working on the interview, or if you just know of another professional that you could speak with, that's fine with me if you do a second interview, and then you can use the source on your annotated bibliography. For this week, we're doing a workshop, and I would say consider that this is kind of a practice round for you to look at the different parts of an annotated bibliography, and also to sort of organize how you might gather that information. So the first tip I have for you is go ahead and use the sheet that I've given you, because it is a Microsoft Word formatted sheet. You would have to manipulate it a little bit, so I would want you to go in here and take out the instructions. I would also want you to kind of go through and select all and go over here and take it to Times New Roman, 12-point font, and make sure it's all black, just standard. And then you are welcome to turn that in as your assignment. So hopefully that sort of helps you. I believe we need to take out this space because we just want a double space. So I hope this helps you. I would like to see an MLA header. You did do MLA formatting in 111, so sometimes I like for students to show me that they still understand that. So you could go ahead and do an MLA header there with your name, my name, the course number and section, and the date. And then of course you would go over here and do page numbering with your last name and the page number for MLA. All right, the next thing is you're going to do 3 sources. And like I said, we're sort of in this time of going from some preliminary research into the scholarly research. So I would prefer you to use some scholarly research. But if you found something good on a professional organization website, something that was published, a speech that was given, a credible video on YouTube, or possibly even a TED Talk, I would accept that on this worksheet just because I'm sort of taking you through some practice so that you know how to annotate and how to cite sources for academic purpose. So first it says create an APA citation for your source. You're welcome to use the citation generators with the databases. If you're going to use that or even something like EasyBib, I would caution you that many times it's an algorithm and they'll pick up parts of a citation, and then when they put it into the APA or MLA citation, it's not correct. So with each step of the way, I would check behind these citation generators. You're also welcome to form your citations yourself using the Siegel Handbook or the Purdue Online Writing Lab. They do have directions on how to format a citation there, but the way I would do it if I were a student is I would probably allow the citation generator, specifically the scholarly one from the JCC databases, I would let that go ahead and generate the citation, and then I would make corrections. So for instance, one thing we know is with the authors, with APA, it's just the last name and the first initial. So if you see a full name there, you know you have to change it to the initial. And then the other marker for APA is that the date follows the author and the title of the article or source that you're using only is capitalized the first word and then the first word after a colon. So if you see all caps with the title, you're going to have to change that. And a lot of times that's one of the things that does not translate well with the citation generators. Also make sure any publications are in italics. So those are some things you can check. So you're going to put your citation here, APA. Make sure you have a hanging indent. That's very important, and it's part of the formatting. Then I have a series of questions here, and I'm just going to sort of highlight these here because they were in a different color, but I did want to go through and kind of tell you why you're doing the 3 sections. So you're going to do 3 things whenever you annotate. You're going to summarize, you're going to evaluate or analyze, and you're going to synthesize. So the first part is fairly easy. With the summary, a lot of times you'll just mention the author or 1 or 2 of the authors on the project, possibly where it was published. If there's any information on the authors, like maybe where they work or where they were published, you can include that in the summary. And you also want to identify what type of source it is. Website, journal, newspaper article, web, video, YouTube video, whatever it is, you want to identify that in the summary. Next, you want to analyze and evaluate. And so here, where you see what is the purpose of the article, that's where you'll analyze and evaluate, because you're trying to show me, the reviewer of your research, how you came to the source. Why is it important? Why is it purposeful? And what makes it credible? You'll probably want to analyze a little bit or evaluate a little bit of the information in the source, and you'll put that there. And then finally, this is the synthesis part. Anytime you do synthesis, it's just you're showing how something connects. In the case of annotations and annotated bibliographies, you want to connect your research to the greater project that you're doing. For this class, since we're doing multiple projects with one topic and one set of research, you probably do not want to mention this will be used in the paper, because it's not just one paper, it's a semester-long project. So I would suggest that you just write it as this will be used for the research project because, or this would be a good source to prove X, Y, or Z for the research project. You cannot use first person and you cannot use second person. So second person pronouns would be you, and that's not acceptable for scholarly work. And first person pronouns would be I, me, we, my. For this, I want you to use all third person pronoun references or specific noun references. So, as I said, this is a practice round so that you can get accustomed to what you're going to put into your annotations next week when you start writing your annotated bibliography. I am fine if you keep these questions in so that you can follow along, and then you could put your answer after the question. And if something comes along like who are the authors, or let's say there's not an author, what are their qualifications? Maybe you know who the authors are, but the particular article didn't mention what their qualifications are. You just do your best there, because you should be able to name the author. And honestly, with most sources, it does come with an author if it was published in a scholarly environment. If there's no author, then you would explain that there is not one, and possibly why. Maybe it was published by a department or by a staff kind of organization, and they don't list the actual author. That does happen sometimes. So I hope this makes sense. I do want you to keep the headers. So you would put source one, and then you would sort of go over this, because where it says create an APA citation, you would want to put the citation there. And then down through here, I would like for you to keep the questions or the headers, just so you're showing me that you understand what I'm asking you to pull from your source. And then next week, when you actually do the annotated bibliography, you won't have any headers or anything. You'll just have the citation and the annotation. But like I said, you're going to do this 3 times. If you do want to go back to your preliminary research and pull something that you felt was significant from that you think might be scholarly, that's okay. We're going to try to avoid .coms, and we're going to try to avoid things that are not academic in nature. But like I said, sometimes with preliminary research, students find documentaries, or and that would be unbiased documentaries, or they find TED Talks that are significant, or something that's sort of in that gray area between a Google search and a scholarly search. And for this particular worksheet, it's fine if you include some of those, but make sure they're purposeful, intentional, and make sure it's something that would serve itself well in an academic environment in a preliminary stage of the research. If you have any questions, please email me. I look forward to seeing how your research progresses this week, and have a great week.